A man getting bit by an alligator and he screams. Okay, quiet. Hey, quiet. Sit down, Sergeant Lee.
Ow! No, not an owl. A real scream of pain.
Okay, so we're back for part 2 of day 4, the final day. Our final day, our final time into 2025 Oak Cliff Film Festival.
This feels like I shouldn't be able to do this, but I'm going to go ahead and go. So.
Yeah, I think we'll be okay. And I'm already stumbling over words, as I told you that we would be doing.
Right. Yeah. It's been so we cut out early. We cut out one film because one film you can actually see already. It's a director's cut of an older film called Gypsy '83. Look, I would like to see this director, but like honestly, I think this film festival should have ended like right now. Like I don't think it needs to go into the evening of Sunday.
On a Sunday night.
Like, I think Friday should be heavier. And again, this is not me bitching about anything. This is just me if I was running the show, how I would do it differently.
Friday and Saturday should be the real kind of like gangbusters.
Right. Like you should expect people to show up at noon on Friday, right? Yeah. Take the day off, get some tacos, come over, come watch some movies. And then Sunday is a nice little half day of movies, and we're going to wrap it up early. Right. Everyone goes home and gets ready for the next week, right? Yeah. And so I'm totally fine with like leaving that film because like I'll watch it some other time. And again, Q&A for me has lost a lot of its appeal, especially in situations like these.
I'm not really interested in any of them, right?
Right. So let's start. So we saw 3 films today. We saw Peacock, Softshell, and Messy. A lot of like one-word titles, which is and gracefully enough, there's a lot of shorter films, like a lot of like 90 minutes and out. Let's start with, because I do not want to end on a bad note, let's start with Softshell.
Okay. Let's get that out of the way.
Because this is my least favorite film of the festival by far.
Wait, really? Okay, so you like this less than Removal of the Eye.
I don't like Removal of the Eye either.
Okay.
But I really am angry about this one.
So this is Softshell. This film follows 2 Thai American siblings after their mother has passed away, after their mother has died, and we just kind of follow them through their New York lives. I mean, that's kind of it,
that's
right?
That's basically it.
And they now there's a lot of like other sort of, I think, undertones and things that we're trying to get across that don't really work. But I think I said to you, it had like a really kind of early mumblecore feel.
Right.
Where there's just like, there's nothing going on, right? There is like no plot. It's just
and look,
lo-fi talking.
I am not a huge fan of mumblecore just in general. Right. I'm not. I like when Van Sant did, and I always called it his boredomcore like film series. But like I didn't really care for Elephant. I really disliked Jerry.
Yeah.
And I forget what the third one was in that like trilogy that he was doing. That kind of like lo-fi trilogy that he was doing. Last Days. Last Days was the other one that he did.
Right.
But at least those had some sort of plot up until the point where, like, and we'll talk about this, but like up until the point where the big thing happens in this movie, I was just like, I'm not vibing with this. I don't get this movie, like, and I don't know, like, what I'm supposed to like it with a traditional mumblecore, even like. I'm cool with following these characters around,
right?
But what I'm also not cool with is like the dalliance off to Atlanta to go meet with a guy that the director had a friendship with,
right?
And so
that was weird.
And so like we go off and we run into this really like bizarre interaction with a seemingly racist hotel clerk. and who like, hey, I wanted to introduce you to somebody, and
It's my dad.
and it's my dad, and for some reason they go along with it, right?
Yeah.
They go to the guy's house, and like, so at no point do we ever feel like you know what, I would be, if this was Slacker, where they were just moving from place to place, and it was like, I think, I mean, I would have dug this a lot more, but like, and I was kind of feeling it when he's like talking like to his, his employer, and it's like he's like at some sort of like martial arts location, but he's a blue belt, so he can't teach all these classes. Like, yeah, that's all art house nonsense, but I can go with that, right? I could go with the girl who, loves her gecko or whatever that fucking thing is, like a chameleon,
some kind of lizard,
right?
yeah.
And that she comes across these soft-shell turtles, and she's applying to be a part of the Central Park Zoo,
Queen Zoo.
Yeah, Queen Zoo. Right.
Yeah. So this was, I think part of our contention with this film is that there are moments that seemingly we're going to sink into that kind of art house vignette, kind of like really just loose narrative structure, right?
Right.
And then other parts that are like, no, this is a specific plot point in this story that doesn't have a plot.
Right.
And then so it's like this mashing together of these two things that don't really pay off either way. Because we see her go to apply for the zoo job, and then somebody brings in these soft-shell turtles that they got like in the
it feels like they found them
I don't
in the
know.
wild.
They found them in the wild,
right? And they were like, I don't know how they
brought
got
them
here.
in. Yeah, but like none of that really comes back. And what I mean is like none of the animals. Like, why does she want to work at the zoo? I mean, are these animals important to her?
Right.
I mean, that's the
and like they, there's again, had this just been Slacker, I would have been fine with it. Like,
right.
Like where they're on we're on the subway at the beginning, and the homeless or the transient, whatever, whoever that guy was who was begging, asking for change and stealing the sandwich or whatever, knocks and spills their ashes, right? Spills their mom's ashes, right?
Yeah.
Because they're playing bongos and they're trying to be nice, and it's like all of those things are fine,
right?
But this movie does nothing for a good 75-80 minutes.
Yeah.
And then it sets up this moment where the girl has a white chef boyfriend who's been like cooking shellfish, and we get to see in depth of like them stabbing them and killing them or putting them in pots while they're still alive.
Right.
And so she's going to cook her brother dinner. And again, so this is why the mumblecore thing just completely falls apart.
Right.
Is that she's going to cook her brother dinner. She buys this soft-shell turtle because she sees it. She realizes this is a problem, so she brings it home.
And she stops and gets a tank for it as well.
Right. She gets a tank for it. Does the whole thing. And then her boyfriend comes in and is like, oh shit, you're going to cook some soft-shell crab. And then we see this, not crab, soft-shell turtle. They're going to make turtle soup. And we see this turtle fucking get killed on screen.
Right.
And like, good. And like you said, okay, yes, we slaughter animals to eat them all the time. And like, would I try turtle soup? Probably. I mean, like, I've eaten pate.
Yeah.
Like, but
and veal.
And like all of these things, but this movie does nothing. It does nothing until it wants to shock you.
Right.
And that shock is only to shock you. It's not, and like at the end, there's a disclaimer about, well, these animals were prepared by, these were killed.
3 Michelin star chef.
Right, and they were killed for consumption, and that, it's by a 3 Michelin star chef. And I was like, go fuck yourself. Like, because one, it doesn't matter. That doesn't matter, right? Look, I get that we kill animals to eat them. The message of this movie isn't veganism or that's it is just there because you had nothing else.
Right.
Your whole story was built around this one scene, and you'd had nothing else to do. Like, it was so fucked up. It was so fucked up, and of course we knew where it was happening. Like as soon as she puts the fucking turtle in the bowl,
right.
And then as the chef comes in and he grabs it, everyone else in the audience starts to gasp. Not to say that we're like more brilliant than most people, but we are. But I mean, I'm not to say it out loud.
Right. Shh. It's a secret.
But it's so fucking infuriating because it's so I mean, like, it's not because it's so shocking. It's just
because it's so cheap and manipulative.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing, is it's cheap and manipulative, and that's really the only kind of time of emotion in this story anyway.
Right. And then he gets up in the Q&A and dances. I mean, like, it's just like, I don't get why this film exists.
Yeah.
Like I get like removal of an eye. It's a bad movie, right?
Right.
It's 100% bad movie, but I understand like people make bad movies all the time.
Sure.
And for somebody, for that movie will connect, right? So I mean, like it's not good. It's not well acted. It's not well paced. It's not well written. It's not well shot. It's a bad movie.
Right.
But at some point,
right.
someone likes, fucking bad movies. There's someone that watch that and go,
we all like some
this
kind
is
of
a
bad
cute
movie.
little movie, and it's like I like the baby, and the baby did fun. Like, oh, you remember when the baby got put in the dryer, and that was scary, right? It's fine, whatever. Not everyone has to overthink shit. It was just not a good movie, and I was like, yeah, that was dumb. But this was fucking insulting, and I just fucking hated it. And like as soon as we all knew what was going to happen, the fact that it didn't like shift, and like it just. And like none of the other animal killing scenes on screen fucking added anything to it either.
That's the bigger thing. The boyfriend, I don't know why that plot is there. I don't know why he's there.
And why is the video game there?
Right.
That was weird. Like again, and
none of these things connect and add up.
Right. And so if you're going to do mumblecore, just let those things go and don't ever come back to them.
Right.
Like it doesn't make sense for her to be playing this really, really lo-fi, like Mac.
But it's like, but it's also like on her
game.
Twitch too,
right?
Or her Switch. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Those are different things.
and like so, this doesn't follow the tenets of mumblecore, and it's just boring. And like you mentioned, Toki Bookie, which is it's like I and even Tampopo, right?
Yeah. But those are all in the service of.
That's all in the service of, right? And so like those open up that way.
Yeah.
It's not. And even like something like Viva la Muerte, right? I mean, it's still like these other like scenes. Like, yeah, I get what they're trying to do here. This is just to evoke shock and awe in you in a movie that didn't deserve your shock and awe in the first place.
Right.
It's like, well, fuck this movie. I mean, I don't like. It's fucking infuriating.
Yeah.
And the fact that we sit there and like, okay, here's the thing too. Like, it's not just the killing. It's not, and like we focus on the fucking head afterwards.
Yeah.
Like
we linger.
It's fucked up.
We don't need to linger.
It's really, really fucked up, and it's so, I don't know. Like it's like I said, it's like you said, it's so fucking cheap. It's so useless.
Yeah.
And it really is like. I'm surprised this film is getting any sort of attention, and that it was selected for this at all. And not that again, I'm not bad mouthing Oak Cliff. I'm really not. But this film was fucked. It's terrible.
This is the, I mean, aside from this ending bit, which again I feel like is cheap and manipulative and is just kind of hackneyed, right? I was kind of with it for a while because I'm like, oh, we're just going to sort of float around, right? And
I'm with
like,
it until it goes to
this
Atlanta.
is good. Okay, exactly.
Right. I'm with it until it goes to the redneck, Asian guy. The redneck. I'm sorry, redneck. He's an Asian guy who has a southern accent.
So forget about that. I mean, right? That's one part of it. But just we try to connect the zoo with Atlanta,
right?
Because the woman sort of talking about the job,
right? And there's also this like pseudo racist shit. He's talking about the whale sharks and how they were going to be in this like market to eat them,
right?
And it's like this kind of pointed message of like against Asians, right?
So like none of this connects, it's like pick a direction, right? Either do this kind of like floating mumblecore thing where we just go from scene to scene to scene, whatever, right? Or construct an actual narrative,
right?
So I mean, and that was where, because I'm not nearly as angry as you are, but I think I got kind of tamped down my emotions a lot of times.
As soon as we get out on the bass boat and these characters start playing two scenes that the director has in his head. Yeah. These moments that I have a compilation of ideas that I'm going to film and then try to construct some sort of non-narrative film. None of it works, and like none of them connect. And like at least your characters have to have some sort of motivation to move from scene to scene. And this idea of like, well, okay, you were already gonna go fly to Thailand, so you're gonna fly to Atlanta because the job told you about you should go there at your interview told you should go there. Because this woman just
mentions it, like, oh, it's really great.
And you've got to go see whale sharks? what
No,
in the
that-
ever-loving fuck is this movie?
We should have never. That's like, just leave. If we're not going to go see her at her job at the zoo, then I don't fucking care anymore, right?
Right,
I mean,
yeah.
Like, I just don't. And then
Yeah.
just let me see something else.
Right,
And the
right.
boyfriend again does not need to be there. Does not need to be there. And then they have this like stupid conversation about. She's like, oh, I think I'm just like bad at sex, and he says something about ancestors, and then he comes back and apologizes, and I'm like, stop it! You've not done anything to make this relationship anything at all. And why do we have scenes with him without them? We should never leave them. It should always be just one, like either them together or just them on their own.
It's really fucking bizarre. It really is. Like, I mean, like, and this is like the worst of like art house horseshit, right? I mean, like, it's just, I don't know. I don't want to fucking talk about it anymore.
Yeah,
It's just
cool.
fucking.
Let's talk about something else.
Let's talk about Messy.
Okay, let's talk about messy. So this is I think it's messy.
Yeah,
Right?
it is messy,
But it's
yes,
this
yeah.
woman who, after a breakup, moves to New York. She's a quote-unquote unemployed writer, and she reconnects with like an old acquaintance that she's known for a few years, and then she just kind of goes and has
A lot of sex.
a lot of casual, risky sex, starts drinking again, and then ends up doing more and more drugs, harder drugs, heavier drugs. Kind of has a sort of epiphanous come to Jesus moment where she's like, I'm going to a love and sex addicts meeting right now. But, right, Leo from Sex and the City calls her and is like, you've got a job now at Conversation / Interview magazine.
Right.
And he's like, just be your wonderful fucked up self. And like, yeah, that's kind of what we do.
Right.
I mean, look, I thought this movie was kind of funny.
It's funny. It's like, but it's like a translation of a one-woman show to film, right?
And it's trying to sort of, update and reference Sex and the City.
Right.
But like, what if it was Sex and the City with penetration?
I guess. I mean,
or with like threesomes and ketamine?
Or the main actresses being naked on screen a lot. I mean, I do think this is interesting. The interesting part of this to me is, like, again, we've gotten several movies with female gaze where females are on in female-driven movies where there's nudity, and like almost like kind of like empowering nudity, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm not the right person to make that claim, but these are female directors that are directing themselves that are on naked on screen, right? So I'm assuming that they're taking something and owning that, right?
What do I think? I think that there's, the message of sex positivity in both, like with fuck toys and this,
right?
I think is clear, and that's great, right? I'm not calling her a slut or anything like that, right? But so it's like, yes, go out and have it, like, do whatever you want. That's great. But I like this idea of the female gaze directed by the female director too on a woman.
And I think it's interesting mainly because we've mentioned before is that, like, we've kind of gotten away from like on-screen nudity, and like there was a lot in this festival, but a lot of male nudity as well. At least like prosthetic male nudity. I can't ever really. I mean, it's right.
A lot of swinging dicks.
A lot of, and like, so I find that interesting of like female directors kind of reclaiming it in a way, and also then just I don't know how. I mean, that would be an interesting conversation, right? Is to what what that is, because again, in mainstream films where you would have these gratuitous big-breasted females that were like just on screen to be big-breasted females and have no agency, no like continue, no addition to the plot. Right. Their nudity would just be there to sell tickets, right? It wouldn't be there to basically to get the young male audience, nothing else that was actually pertinent to the story. Now it's interesting that we saw just two films that were kind of seemingly pulling that back and like re-adding this to the conversation. Because you could have easily like hidden all of those things, fuck toys and this film in Messy, and I don't necessarily think it would have taken necessarily anything away from it. We would have understood it, right?
Right. And I do think the nudity is different in those two films.
Agreed. Yes.
Where this is much more of your like traditional kind of rom-com-y film, right?
Yes.
This is, what was the Anne Hathaway rom-com we saw at DIFF last year?
I can't
The Idea of You?
The Idea of You, yes.
I mean, so this is much more in that kind of vein, but raunchier.
Right.
Where was I going with this? Oh, right, but like this is more of that like traditional kind of nudity that we see, or in a way, the traditional representation of sex that we see in films, where Fuck Toys was, again, more in that Waters vein, but it also, like, had no interest in kink shaming anyone in Fuck Toys, and a lot of the nudity was, I mean, just out there and again, like, in your face, but not, I don't know, not ashamed, not a kind of passion.
Yeah, it's an interesting, like, the motivations I find would be interesting to understand, because again, like, because they are the ones who are putting themselves on the screens.
Right.
Like I said, I found this movie funny. I find it kind of, like, even at 80 minutes, a little over long. Like, and I feel like this, again, it feels like it's a setup to something different than a narrative film, right?
Yeah.
Because we just moved from bed to bed, essentially. And she's, like, sleeping with different types of guys and having conversations.
And they all suck.
Right, they all suck. And the one that she ends on, you don't think it's going to end up any differently. It's just a matter of, like, it's just that's the next guy in the queue.
And I mean, I do find the ending curious, and I think for a couple of different reasons, right? Because this movie should end, I mean, traditionally, right? It should end with her going to that meeting and then finding, like, actual love, right? That's how this film should end. Right. But instead, it ends with, like, people telling her, don't apologize for who you are. Right. There's nothing wrong with you. Right? This is how you go through life. And she ditches the meeting. And then, which, I mean, to be fair, okay, she's going to the job, or going to the magazine office, right? But then, literally stumbles into a guy that you understand, like, what's going to happen.
Right. And this movie is not deep enough to, like, really try to kind of unravel what it's actually getting at.
Right.
I mean, that's, so this idea of, like, well, don't better yourself because that makes a better story.
Right.
And then like, if you're not doing the most harshest of things, you're fine. You're practically a teetotaler. You're practically sober.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not saying that, like, it's weird that the kind of the film kind of bookends with, like, people judging her in a way in cabs, right? It's also weird. I don't think there's a lot to the substantive to this other than they're cab drivers, but they're both foreign men.
Oh yeah.
Which, again, I'm not going to try to read into everything, but, like, like, if you want to pull back some subtext, I think there's some things to have there, because she only really sleeps with white men. Also,
that's true, and she rejects the black guy that hits on her.
Yeah, right. I mean, so there's some interesting layers to peel apart here. That I'm not even sure. And this is why I feel like it feels like it's a one-woman kind of pseudo-autobiographicals. Like, I'm sure it's all hyped up, like, I mean, or ramped up in regards to what actually happened. But this all feels like, this feels just like Sex and the City, which I guess is what makes it kind of feel a little bit tired. Yeah. In the sense is that we've already seen this happen, right? It's a little messier, it's a little dirtier.
It's a little edgier, yeah.
Right. Yeah. But we understand that, like, she's writing these stories for a magazine story. And I'm sure, again, so this whole thing of, like, all right, we get where this is going. We understand that this is the idea. I think that people will find this funny. I think this is a simple, easy watch.
Oh yeah.
Again, I don't necessarily love anything that's in regarding the filmmaking aspect of it. The three kind of talking heads facing the camera kind of thing. I think there's some funny characters in here. I think the writing is clever in certain instances and just, like, legitimately funny. But I don't find it, like I said, it just feels like I'm sitting watching a stage play with, where she's off in the wings telling us a story about, and then we cut to this story, right? Yep. And then she has two other characters in the wings that, like,
that comment
on the scene that just took place, right?
They're the Greek chorus,
right?
Yeah.
And I mean, and it's the things that I find interesting is that her celebrity friends, with Nicky Cat, Naomi Sky, and like you said, the guy from Sex and the City.
Yeah.
These, like,
wait, Nicky Cat?
Wasn't that who was? That's not Nicky Cat. That's the other guy. It's Adam Goldberg.
Adam Goldberg.
Right. That's why I freaked out, because I was like, okay.
I was like, wait a minute, what?
Right.
And I guess he would have still been alive.
Right. He still would have been alive. Yeah.
So did I miss Nicky Cat? Oh no.
And and the guy at the beginning, it's I forget his name. Is it Thomas Middleditch or something like that?
Oh yeah. But there's a lot of recognizable faces in this film, even if you don't know their actual names. You're like, oh, it's that guy. I've
Yeah.
seen him in things, and then you can go like Google it later.
So this was fine. It's not something I would have necessarily wanted to end the like. So this was, but it was fine. It was fine.
Yeah.
I didn't dislike it, but it wasn't like it's not my favorite.
I would imagine that like trying to find the film to end in the festival is going to be really tricky.
Yeah,
Because you don't want to hold back, right? Like the best film.
Sunday's a hard day because not everyone's going to like, right. Yeah,
Yeah, but you want to show something good. It's tough.
It feels like your documentary should sit in that last Sunday spot, right? Like
kind of like your chief main. Anyway,
and then our first film of the day and our last one we're going to talk about is called Peacock.
Austrian film. I really love the premise of this film.
Yes.
So did it? Have you seen Alps? Have you seen Lanthimos' Alps?
I have not.
So it's a very similar kind of premise where people hire other like actors, right, from this kind of company of people to stand in for like dead loved ones, right? So it's a little different than this, but you have someone like acting out the part of a wife, and the guy saying, no, she said it in this way, so you have to do it that way. I mean, that kind of more of on that like level of like loss and grief and finding someone to fill in for them. But here we get this incredibly good-looking Austrian or German man,
right,
who works for this. Is it called My Companion?
Yes. Yeah.
Works for this business called My Companion, and what they do is people hire them to basically, fill a role or play a part. But like one man hired this guy to be his son and give this speech at a
what is like
60th
retirement
birthday
party.
or retirement party,
It is his birthday,
right?
Yeah. At his like country club or some whatever organization he's a part of, right?
And then we get a kid who brings him to show and tell,
right, as his father,
who's a pilot,
right,
and another man hires him to be his partner because he's trying to get he's trying to rent an apartment, and diversity is going to look good, right? So he has to play all these different roles. He's got to be kind of like everybody's Friday, right, all the time. Be able to shift between these things, be able to talk about interesting things, be able to, be confident. And it's completely worn him down to nothing.
In doing so, he's lost himself.
Completely lost himself.
He can't emote unless it's an act.
And I love that when we first see him with his partner, with his domestic partner, she's asking him, "Oh, do you want red or white?" And he's like, "Whatever you want." And so we understand that he can't even make a fucking decision on his own without someone else telling him like what they want.
Right.
Which I thought that, because you knew then kind of, okay, this is where we're going with it.
Right.
But I thought it was like such a real like subtle kind of smart way. And he gets this new piece of art, and it's just kind of like because that's what people are talking about now. So won't that impress guests? Which they never have.
Right, never have any guests over. And so the main, like, aside from him kind of falling apart and like having this existential crisis of self, he also has this kind of old man like stalking him because he has helped his wife, the old man's wife, break up with him. He's given her
how to argue.
Learn how to argue, given her confidence, and she's like, well, I'm better off, now that I'm, I can do this and I can assert myself, I'm better off without you. So she breaks up with him. Well, that pisses him off. That pisses the old man off, and he wants to figure out why they had a relationship and what he did for her, and did he encourage her to break up. And so as that's happening, his life is unraveling because he's starting to have panic attacks.
His partner's left him.
Right. And then it all kind of culminates with the 60th birthday party where, like he's had a panic attack at the previous date where he's like crying in the aisle of this performance art show,
which was great,
which was really funny.
It was awesome.
And like his boss or his friend who like co-owns the company with him or whatever, is like, look, I understand, like you're having any other time I'd tell you could stay home, but 14 hours to pull yourself together and do this thing.
And so he does. He gives the speech, and people love the speech, and he's done his job well until the woman he's brought with him as his date, who works for the same company, spills a little bit of wine on his shirt.
Right. It just kind of like bounces up on a white shirt.
Yeah, just like a little speck.
And the people that he's working for are terrible. I mean, they're bad people, and they want this guy to make them look good so that he can be
elected president of
whatever organization this is. So he gets really shitty with him and tells him to go change his clothes, and he's just like, it's not a big deal, it's just a little speck. And then he starts to take his clothes off in the restaurant or in the ballroom, and then he gets up and takes this mud bath, which was the spa special of the day, and walks back in and
covered
in this
mud.
like gray like spa mud, fully naked,
very much like Tim Robbins in the
yes, yeah,
in The Player.
And people are appalled at first, and then they think it's performance art. So nothing that he does still has any sort of impact, or like the impact that he wants to have. And like at certain points during the movie, like he can't get his electrical devices to recognize his voice or like respond to him. So he's disappearing in his own life.
He's just completely like lost him. Yeah.
And so now that they think that this is his performance art, he stands up opens a window, stands up, and dives out of the building. We think initially to kill himself, but he lands in this pile of water, and then he just walks off.
Like swims away, walks off into the woods
naked. I really had a good time with this one. I thought it was really
awesome.
really well done, and really funny, and held the tension in a good way. Matthias he was so good in this. Just being that kind of blank slate.
And we slowly see like creases return to his face, right? Yeah. Circles under his eyes.
And the world that they build is so well realized too, without being like overly. Maybe it's a little on the nose, a lot of it, but like, I think it really plays. I think it plays really well. So like when he goes into his closet, like all of his clothes are put into these like beige, clothes covers basically.
He's got like file boxes for everything that he's done.
But they all look exactly the same, and they're all just unmarked cardboard boxes.
This was. It reminded me. Who's the guy that did Triangle of Sadness?
Yes, and Sick of Myself in the same. I forget the guy's name, but
like because I'm thinking of like Klaus Bang in The Square.
Yes.
It has that kind of like it keeps that tension there, but there's never really anything that's like so dangerous, right?
Right.
So,
right.
But it's just like right there on the edge. You're just kind of like, what the fuck is going on? And it's got that kind of humor too. That's very deadpan, right? Very kind of subtle and smart.
Right, because when he has, when he ends up having sex with the girl, we focus. It's out of focus in the background, and all we focus on is the dog licking its ass, basically.
Yeah. And then of course, like she just ignores him after they hook up, which again, right? He's just completely like lost. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I like that a lot. I thought it was. I thought there were a few standouts at this festival.
Yeah. No, okay. So let's say
I think Fuck Toys.
I think Fuck Toys is probably
Peacock.
It's the clear. I think Fuck Toys is the clear winner, right?
You haven't seen The Hedonist yet, but
I'll check that out.
I think that's one.
We can chat that one up.
Yeah, it's a standout as well. So, I think you liked Positions more than I did, but I do think that was really good as well.
Yeah.
Those would be kind of like my handful that I think work really well.
Cool. Well, my family's.
Oh, did they just get home?
Yeah, they just got home.
Oh, nice. She's like, who's that? It's like, well, whose car do you think it is?
Right.
All right. Well, we will chat at you soon, Screamers. And I hope you've enjoyed our recap of Oak Cliff Film Festival 2025. Until next time, whenever that might be. Thanks for listening.
And keep screaming.
You have been listening to Why Does the Wilhelm Scream with your hosts, Brock and Jason. If you liked today's episode, do us a favor and rate, review, and subscribe in whatever application you use to consume podcasts these days. You can reach us by visiting whydoesthewilhelmscream.com. If you are in the DFW area, we would love to see you at a Fort Worth Film Club event. You can learn more about those and find a full schedule at fortworthfilmclub.com. And you can learn about my foundation and how we are trying to foster the next generation of film lovers at realhousefoundation.org. That's REEL housefoundation.org. Till next time,